Okay, so why did we change to a focused format? There are three main aims to Cochrane changing the format, and this is the review format and the data format. The first was around streamlining the development and publication of Cochrane reviews. The second was about improving experience with producing and publishing Cochrane reviews, and that's literally for everyone involved in that process. We're talking about the authors, the editors, and the users of the evidence on the Cochrane library. And the third was about being like facilitating our ability to innovate in how we share and use our content. And so these changes were informed by a research project from 2021-2022, which included focused interviews and surveys with nearly 1,000 respondents from across the Cochrane's community. And when it came to the format of the review itself, a lot of the feedback was that reviews are too long. There's a lot of duplication in the reviews, and that they were laborious to produce and quite rigid. And so to address these challenges, we launched the focused review format. And by combining the changes of this focused review format with the new data management structures in RevMan, which are called study-centric data, RevMan now guides authors in planning more details about their review and each of their syntheses at the protocol stage. And the new template, which is what we'll talk about today, helps focus reporting on the main outcomes that will be in your summary of findings tables. And so this approach not only streamlines the later review stages, but it should also create better defined and better focused reviews that are less overwhelming and less difficult to write and navigate. So anything that's not directly related to the main outcomes for your summary of findings tables, so that's any information that enhances or provides additional context to your review, these are moved to the next layer. So they move to supplementary materials. And having this clearer distinction between the main article and what's supplementary will make it easier for readers to digest and use the evidence. So the full characteristics of studies tables, these are moving to supplementary materials. And because of this move, authors should also now create in their main review an included studies and analyses table, which details what studies within your review contribute results to which review outcomes. And this was another common area of feedback from the surveys that would really help readers interpret the reviews more easily and understand which studies contribute to what outcomes. Another theme from the survey was that author guidance was difficult to follow because it's in quite a few different places. And so we've simplified the guidance and now have core author guidance that's on one page. And we've created this protocol and review template. They're the two main kind of resources that authors that we advise authors use. And as Rachel mentioned, Cochrane now uses publishing standard reporting guidelines instead of having its own bespoke reporting guidance. And that's to make things simpler for new and current authors. I do want to make it clear that Cochrane still has its own conduct standards. We've just separated out conduct standards versus reporting standards. And finally, there are some new subheadings. And the subheadings across the review should help improve consistency between published reviews. And we've added new sections on equity, consumer involvement, and data availability to help showcase the integrity of our evidence even more. And so here's a summary of the changes to the review and data formats that came into place last year. So first, we have managing data at the study level, and this really does open up lots of benefits with pre-specifying your PICO in RevMan, and that facilitates data extraction and analyses, and it enables imports of your extracted data and exports of all of your data associated with the review. So this is recommended, but it is optional for authors. And we've got a link to a full webinar that we gave on study-centric data. So if you are interested in learning more, that plug will be in one of the later slides. So do check it out. So moving on to the focused review format. So these changes are really about having a main article that's clear, concise, and focused on your main findings. The idea is to keep that article short, readable, and accessible. And to help with this, we have suggested a word limit of 10,000 words. And as an author, you can see that in the submission preview in RevMan. For this focused review format, all submissions from the 1st of April should be using the new format. And we've got guidance on what to do if you make that switch from the previous format to the focused format. And so the developments so far have mostly been technology and process changes, but fundamental to focusing a review is really defining and managing its scope. If people are focusing their reviews better, their review question will be clearer, their syntheses will be less overwhelming, and the review itself less cluttered. And then all the good stuff comes off of the back of that, right? It will take less time to do the reviews, and it will be easier to stay on top of the question and the evidence. But format in itself does not fix scope. What we've developed should mean that authors can think more about comparisons and questions and what matters most for their reviews, but it's also why people were such a core element of focusing reviews. And we have these web clinics, and we've got other plans to try and help authors in this area. And we're also working with Cochrane's central editorial service on how feedback on protocols can, again, help authors focus their reviews. And these changes to the review and data formats really create a strong foundation for future innovations in Cochrane reviews. They enable us to more easily enhance content on the CDSR so that users can find the right information in the right format. They'll help improve efficiency in producing and sharing protocols. And there's also opportunities for enhancing records and data in Central, which is Cochrane's database of trials. And this in turn will facilitate living reviews as well as open up opportunities for better evidence surveillance, particularly through that central, the database of trials. And ultimately, so altogether, this will enable us to better innovate in how we share and use Cochrane content. And that was the third aim of this project. And this doesn't mean that there haven't been developments to this, the different layers of this pyramid over the years. That's definitely not the case. But what we're saying is that the changes at the bottom to the review and the data formats support innovation elsewhere in this system. So the changes that have come into place aren't just about kind of messing around with headings. It's about how the review itself and the associated data can be shared and used to better meet our stakeholders' needs. And so if we just think about what it means for you all as authors, so as mentioned, it enables authors to work smarter in RevMan. This earlier investment in the protocol and the review process will then streamline later analyses stages, and it better facilitates better defined, more focused reviews. These changes will also improve author experience, which will be more similar to publishing systematic reviews elsewhere, but with all of the extra guidance, support, and training that comes with doing a Cochrane review. Simplified reporting with new templates will aid authors on what to report where, and that will help facilitate the adherence to the expected reporting standards. And also with more focused reporting and less actual writing, it'll be easier to stay on top of the question and the evidence. And we also envision greater impact of the published reviews, and that's because the main article focuses on the main content, and by moving everything else to supplementary materials, so it's still there if people want to dig into the data and dig into the details, this will make it easier for people to read and use the evidence in the main article. There's also a new data package that was part of the data changes that's published on Cochrane Reviews. And the way that the data that's included in that package and the way that it's shared should also make it more efficient for Cochrane evidence to be used in guidelines and other research. And along the same lines of enhancing our impact, these reviews better showcase the integrity of Cochrane evidence with the new sections on equity, consumer involvement, and data. And then finally, this shorter, more consistently reported reviews should help streamline quality assurance and peer review, as well as copy editing. So we're talking about faster editorial processing and faster production processing. And so if you want to know more about either of these areas, so the study-centric data or the focused review format, these QR codes will take you to some news items which summarize the changes and provide all of the information that you need. So do have a look at those. Once I've finished presenting, I'll also pop some links in the chat for you. So with the rationale as to why Cochrane has moved to a more focused format, I now want to focus on why we've moved to publishing standard reporting guidelines and why the new template is such an essential resource for authors. So since its inception, Cochrane has led the field in facilitating complete and accurate systematic review reporting. We understood the importance of greater reporting transparency, as it was so lacking in so many of the study publications that we were including and critiquing and summarizing. And so we led by example in terms of like how to have complete and transparent reporting of systematic reviews. And one of the main ways this has been achieved is through structured reporting, which is supported by the use of RevMan, our authoring software, which includes really clear subheadings throughout our reviews that help improve the completeness of reporting by helping ensure that all of the key issues are addressed. In addition, Cochrane's methodological expectations for Cochrane intervention reviews, didn't need Cochrane twice in that actually, it is affectionately called MECIA, included guidance on not only the conduct of reviews, but also the reporting of protocols and the review itself, the full review. But across the field, reporting guidelines have also been developed for different study designs, including PRISMA, which is the main reporting guidance for systematic reviews of interventions. These guidelines are also consensus-based and in some cases developed by the same researchers. So, for example, many of those involved in developing PRISMA were also involved in developing MECIA and are involved in Cochrane's methods groups, which were the groups that kind of define the method standards within Cochrane. So therefore, as part of the changes to the focused format, Cochrane decided to retire its own bespoke reporting guidance and now endorses the publishing standard reporting guidelines. And this is not a radical change for authors, but it does help us keep aligned with that kind of ever-evolving evidence synthesis landscape. And there's really two key areas of benefits for this change. The first is that it's simpler. So these reporting guidelines have a simple checklist structure and are easier to adhere to and help kind of streamline quality assurance checks. We've also have further guidance now in the Cochrane handbooks on how to use these publishing standard reporting guidelines in your review. So, for example, the reporting chapter in the Cochrane handbook of systematic reviews of interventions has been updated. And using these reporting guidelines also makes things simpler for authors, as they don't need to adhere to different checklists or standards for systematic reviews in different journals. So it's potentially more appealing for both new and current authors. And then the second area is that it's more efficient. So as I mentioned, these reporting standards are developed by researchers who are also authors of Cochrane's also were authors of Cochrane's bespoke reporting guidance. And so this move will reduce duplication of effort within the field and means our time can be better spent on helping authors adhere to the guidance. And I do want to stress that this change only relates to reporting. So you can see on the screen here, you've got MASIA on the left. These are still Cochrane's conduct standards. So if you're doing a Cochrane review of interventions, you should still be following MASIA for your conduct standards. Whereas we now have, for the reporting standards, we are following PRISMA. So the current version of PRISMA is PRISMA 2020. And as mentioned, to help authors adhere to these standards, we have this protocol and review template that we're going to be going into more detail about today. And it really helps because it shows what details should go in which section, including which PRISMA items should go in each section. So here you can see the text in yellow within the template are the PRISMA items that need to be reported on. And the template itself, so this is actually a screenshot from the template. The template does include some guidance on why to use the template and how to use the template. And just to run through the kind of the why, it really is to help focus your review and report your findings concisely. The idea is that if you use the template, you should be in the best place possible to just receive minor revisions when you submit to the Central Editorial Service. So some of the things within the kind of, that the template helps with is helping focus on a manageable scope, providing guidance on including the smallest number of comparisons to address your main objectives, advice on including up to 7 outcomes for each comparison. And for reviews based on pairwise meta-analyses, there should be one summary of findings table for each comparison with your up to 7 outcomes for that comparison. And when you're creating the scope for your review, it's also worth thinking about focusing on the comparisons and outcomes that will be most useful for decision making, because what you also need to be thinking about is how can I summarize all of this within an abstract, right? And that's about 700 words. So a couple more bits and then we're stopping for questions. So how to use the template. So all new Cochrane protocols will have this template embedded within the file when they kind of open up and start a new protocol. So the idea is that authors will be able to see the guidance in each section and overwrite or delete the guidance as they complete those sections with their own text. If you have a protocol or review that's ongoing, you can open up a copy of the template as a practice review. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is the RevMan knowledge base. So this has everything you need to know about RevMan in it. And this is a page on the Cochrane review template. So there's some details and information here on how to use it and open it. So if you click on this, create my copy of the review template, this will open up the template as a practice review. Okay. That's because I've opened up 5 templates today. I opened one up earlier. This is what should open. So as you can see, with this template, you have on the dashboard, it says that the review format has changed and you have a different left-hand navigation with the focused format. Within the sections, you have the guidance. Here's that why to use the template and how to use the template guidance. Again, once you've read it, the idea is that you delete it, you put your own text in these sections. And if you want to use the guidance if you want to see the guidance as a practice review alongside your own review, you can use a split screen. So for example, if I have my review, I can split the screen, and here on the right-hand side, I've got my review, and on the left-hand side, I've got the guidance that I can follow while I'm writing my review.